Thank you for tuning in to the Keeping It Real with KC podcast, a no judgment zone podcast that covers lifestyle, entertainment, news, and sports. Even though KC doesn't watch sports, but these are minor details. By the way, he reads tarot cards too. Yes, I really mean it. He reads tarot cards too. And now, the host you've tuned in for, KC Phoenix.
Welcome back to the Keeping It Real with KC podcast. I, of course, am your host, KC Phoenix. I'm glad you made it. I'm glad I made it. Okay, now, I'm doing this episode in the evening, pretty much at nighttime. It's already dark outside. So I usually don't do episodes at this time. However, I decided to get this episode in. My goal was to get it in this morning. I told you earlier today that I was uploading more episodes than normal. I've already uploaded, let's see, I did Lucky Numbers, The Man Who Was Banned from the Buffet, the Quick 3 Tarot, and then I uploaded an interview, which, by the way, if you haven't listened to the interview that I did with Corby, be sure to check that out. It was an amazing interview. Had to do some editing because we had a few technical issues, but it all worked out in the end. So be sure to check that out. And now I'm uploading this episode. So here we are doing this. I'm putting E on this episode for explicit because even though there's not a lot of language in this is still kind of morbid. I found out about this. It came across my phone. That's usually how some of these stories happen where I decide to talk about them, where it comes across my phone and then I'm like, okay, are you serious? Just like the one about the lap dancing incident at the school, at the high school. What was it? Hazard High School? That situation, that came across my cell phone. So yeah, but this was another story that came across my cell phone. Now, two things before I go any further. KIRWKC.com, main podcasting platform. This podcast is carried on Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Overcast, Bullhorn, Amazon Music, Audible, and several other podcasting platforms. Please feel free to listen to this podcast on whatever platform is most convenient for you. KIRWKC on all the social media platforms. Now, the other thing I was looking to tell you, and you may hear some noise outside because people obviously outside it can get busy at night sometimes. But the other thing I wanted to tell you is that this is a no judgment zone. I always say that about this podcast. I will have an opinion about something, but I don't judge. You know, because it's like, who am I to judge? That has always been my belief. I'm trying to get comfortable in my chair. But it's who am I to judge? I'm about to read the story and then I will give you my opinion on this whole situation. And I already know some people are like, wow, after reading the title. Because yeah, it's like Jesus take the wheel or the handlebars or whatever. Let's get started. The story I found, when I found out about the story, it was on the New York Post. But I liked the Daily Mail article better when I glanced over it. And I'm like, okay, let's go over this. So here it is. It says, friends take body of a man who had been, I won't say the M word, I'll just say he had a forced transition over to the other side. 21, out of Coffin, and put it back on back of motorbike for one last ride in Ecuador. Now, a group of friends took the body of their friend who had passed away out of his coffin to give him one last ride on a motorbike as a bizarre send-off in Ecuador. The body of Eric Sedeno was removed from his coffin by a group of his friends in, okay, now this city, oh, I can pronounce that, Puerto Viejo. I knew that. I was looking at it and it's like, oh yeah, I know how to pronounce that. Yeah, Puerto Viejo. In Ecuador's Manabí province. Sedano, 21, passed away last weekend after reportedly being shot by two people while on his way to attend a funeral. The irony in that is, but yeah, while he was on his way to a funeral, that happened. So that's what went on with that. Let's get on back to the story. And they have video footage of this, by the way, too. He is then positioned. So video footage shows the group removing Sedano from his wooden coffin and carrying his body towards a waiting motorcycle. He is then positioned behind the bike's rider, and another friend then sat behind Sedano to ensure the body didn't fall off during the ride. As the men are moving Sedano's body, a large crowd is also seen to have gathered to observe the bizarre scene. The motorbike then drives off down a road, and some of the friends who helped set the send-off up can be seen cheering and raising their hands in the air. La Repubblica also reports that the friends poured alcoholic drinks on Sedano's coffin. Now, the alcoholic drinks thing, that's a custom in America too, as well. Well, yeah, for the most part. I don't even, because I was about to say for certain, what's the word? I was going to say for certain groups or certain people who participate in certain activities, fill in the blanks. But I honestly will say it doesn't even have to be on that level. I know of situations where they do it where there isn't anything involved in nefarious activities outside of. So take that and run with it. All right. So the group claim they received permission from Sedano's parents for the send-off, but authorities slammed the incident as abhorrent. All right. Though none of those involved in removing Sedano's body from his coffin have been arrested by the authorities, and due to the funeral being considered a private function, an investigation into the incident has not been opened. In some parts of the world, digging up dead relatives is seen as a traditional custom, with those removed from graves washed and sometimes dressed in new clothes. Okay, so that was all of the article. Let me give my thoughts on this. I have something in my eye. I have long eyelashes. I get them from my dad. My dad has long eyelashes. But anyways, for this, what was going through my head? You know how you have something in your mind and you're like, that would be a good idea. That's going to turn out so perfect. It's going to be amazing. But when you get to finally executing it, or maybe execute may not be the word we want to use with this. When you finally put the plan into action, you are like, wow, this did not turn out exactly how I pictured it in my head. I honestly believe that what they did in thought and in theory, that's the other thing. People have certain stuff. That's a problem that we have in government, where they have these things in theory, but when it comes to actually putting it into action, it just falls flat. This is one of those situations where in theory, it's like, yeah, let's take him out of his coffin and put him on the back of a motorcycle and put somebody else on the back of a motorcycle and let's give him a good send-off. In theory, that sounds good. It sounds admirable. It sounds like someone is showing that there was a bond to another individual who was no longer with us in the physical world. I can understand that. However, after this happened, I honestly feel where at least some of them, not all of them, but at least some of them were like, maybe this wasn't the best way to do a send-off. Now, this is my thought on it. Why not have the coffin carried in a car or a truck and have motorcycles? You don't have to have a big giant parade. I mean, obviously, clearly this was on a budget if you look at the videos. And that's not a dig at them. I'm just calling it for what it is. But you could have put the coffin in a truck and got 2, maybe 4 motorcycles and done it that way and just ride up to a certain point, or either where this person who passed away, where his favorite spot was at in the city, and say, you know what, we're going to go from the funeral home to the favorite spot. We're going to do open casket and do it that way because, you know, so he can feel the wind, which he wouldn't really feel it, but you know what I'm saying. And do that and have the motorcycles pretty much accompanying, escorting the truck with the casket, and do it that way. Instead of taking the body out of the casket, messing up all the clothes, and not that someone who has passed away cares that their clothes are wrinkled. I'm just talking about the aesthetic of the whole thing. But wrinkling all the clothes, doing all of that, having to put stuff back together, you don't have to do all that. If they would have just put the casket on the truck, left it open, let it blow in the wind, have 2 or 4 motorcycles do an escort, go to the favorite spot or something like that, maybe pour, drinks, do that too, maybe even have drinks at a favorite spot, as in they surround the casket, the coffin, and then they share stories. Each person takes a sip, maybe pours as well, and then they have stories about, I remember this time when this happened. And they share those stories while they're while they're sitting around the casket and doing that. If they really felt, because I honestly feel, because I know some people are like, well, KC, they could have just buried the body and all of them could have done that, what you're talking about. True. However, the reason I'm saying it the way I said it is because if it was on their spirit enough to take this person out of this casket and put him on the back of a motorcycle, there was something, a bond that was deeper there, where they wouldn't have been able to get it out if the body was buried. That's the energy I'm picking up. That's what I'm taking away from that. Where if the body was buried, they wouldn't have been able to face the body and say the things that they wanted to say and air what they wanted to air and have that last moment of bonding with that individual. So that's why I would say, from, my mind, is that, okay, take the body, do an escort with 2 or 4 motorcycles, leave the body out in the open, of course, on the truck, and do that. Do a slow escort, because obviously you don't want the wind to hit too much. Go to the favorite spot. Clearly they knew the person. Also, the parents knew them because the parents gave the okay for this. Part of me, and again, I call things for what they are. Part of me feels that the parents might have felt they had to give the okay. Because again, don't forget how this happened. This happened when he was going to another funeral and then he was attacked. And again, I don't have all the information. I'm just going by intuition and I'm on the outside looking in. However, if he is affiliated with certain activities and his friends are affiliated with certain activities that brought on this forced transition, then they go to the parents and they're like, hey, we like to take your son for one last ride on the motorcycle. The parents may have been like, you know what, in their mind, okay, we don't want any trouble. We're just going to go ahead and say, yes, we can't bring them back anyway. And that's going to be that. Part of me is like, I'm kind of there on that part. But regardless, the point is that the parents knew the people who associated with their son. This incident with putting him on the back of a motorcycle and doing all that, again, some things are good in theory, but when you actually put the plan into action, doesn't always look that great. Doesn't always work out. Just saying. However, hopefully, after this last ride that this person took on the motorcycle, they put the body back the way it was in the coffin and everything's good. We hope. I don't know. You can look it up. That's all I have. KIRWKC.com, main podcasting platform. This podcast is carried on Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Overcast, Bullhorn, Amazon Music, Audible, and several other podcasting platforms. KIRWKC on all the social media platforms. Until next time, be blessed.